3 minutes ago, Pramila Jayapal did something that left Kash Patel completely speechless. And I mean literally, physically unable to speak. She asked him one simple question, just one, and his entire defense collapsed right there on live television. You need to see his face in that moment. The color draining, the jaw tightening, the hands gripping the table so hard his knuckles turned white. And if you watch until the end, you'll understand exactly why Patel's career is hanging by a thread. If you're new to this channel, subscribe right now and hit that bell icon, because what Jayapal exposed is going to dominate every news cycle for weeks. Let me set the scene for you. January 28, 2026, House Judiciary Committee. The hearing room was packed, cameras everywhere, C-SPAN broadcasting live. Kash Patel sitting at the witness table, looking confident in his dark suit. He'd been testifying for 2 hours already, deflecting questions, giving vague answers, running out the clock. The usual Washington playbook. Republicans were defending him. Democrats were hammering him about the FBI purge, about the agency fired, about the investigations he shut down. Standard partisan theater, and then Pramila Jayapal got her turn. Now, if you don't know who Jayapal is, let me tell you, she's a Democratic congresswoman from Washington state, chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, former civil rights lawyer, the kind of person who doesn't waste time with political niceties. She gets straight to the point, and she'd been sitting there for 2 hours, watching Patel dodge and weave, taking notes, waiting for her moment. Chairman Jim Jordan recognized Congresswoman Jayapal for questioning. The room shifted. You could feel it. Reporters sat up straighter. Staff members stopped whispering. Anyone who's watched Jayapal in hearings knows what that calm expression means. She's got something. She's about to strike. And when she strikes, it's surgical. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Jayapal said. Her voice was steady, almost friendly. Director Patel, I want to talk about something very specific. I'm going to ask you one question, just one, and I want a yes or no answer. Can you do that for me? Patel nodded. He looked relaxed, confident. He thought this was going to be easy. Of course, Congresswoman. Good, Jayapal said. She looked down at her notes, not because she needed them, but for dramatic effect, to let the tension build. And then she looked up directly at Patel. Director Patel, have you personally reviewed the complete list of FI agents you've terminated since taking office? Watch Patel's face in this moment. His expression changed just slightly, a micro-expression that lasted maybe half a second, but the cameras caught it, that flash of panic, that moment of, oh no, where is this going? Congresswoman, I oversee personnel decisions in accordance with, that's not what I asked, Jayapal interrupted. Her voice was still calm, still controlled, but there was steel underneath. I asked a very simple yes or no question. Have you personally reviewed the complete list of FI agents you've terminated? Yes or no? Patel shifted in his seat. Personnel decisions involve multiple factors and, yes or no, Director Patel. The process includes reviews by Director Patel. Jayapal's voice cut through like a knife. This is a simple question. Either you have personally reviewed the complete list or you haven't. Which is it? Silence. Dead silence in that hearing room. Patel sat there frozen, his mouth opened, closed, opened again. But no words came out, because he knew exactly what was happening. If he said yes, she had something that would contradict him. If he said no, he just admitted he was firing people without even knowing who they were. I'll take your silence as a no, Jayapal said, and then she reached into her folder. Slowly, deliberately, she pulled out a stack of papers, thick, maybe 50 pages. She held them up for the cameras. Director Patel, I'm holding 47 pages of FI personnel records. These are the agents you've terminated since January 20th, 312 agents in total. That's 312 FI agents fired in your first 8 days as director. The room exploded. The room? Gasps from the gallery. Reporters frantically typing. Committee members looking at each other in shock. 312 agents. In 8 days, that's nearly 40 agents per day. That's not personnel management, that's a purge. But Jayapal wasn't done, not even close. Now, Director Patel, since you haven't personally reviewed this list, let me share some information with you. Information about who these 312 agents are and what they have in common. She turned to the first page. Agent Sarah Mitchell, 19 years with the FBI Counterterrorism Division. Commendations for her work on domestic extremism cases. Fired on January 22nd. Do you know why she was fired, Director Patel? Patel tried to respond. I don't have specific information about individual. She worked on the January 6th investigation, Jayapal said. Agent Mitchell was part of the team that traced funding for the Capitol attack. Fired. She turned to the next page. Agent James Rodriguez, 23 years with the FBI White Collar Crime Division, led investigations into financial fraud. Fired on January 21st. Do you know his crime, Director Patel? He investigated Trump Organization financial records in 2021. Patel's face was getting paler. You could see sweat forming on his forehead under the lights. Jayapal kept going. Agent David Chen, 16 years. Cybersecurity Division, fired. Agent Patricia Williams, 21 years. Public Corruption Unit, fired. Agent Michael Thompson, 18 years. Organized Crime Division, fired. She looked up at Patel. Do you see the pattern, Director Patel? Because I do. Every single one of these agents worked on cases involving Donald Trump, his associates, or his supporters. Now, I need to stop here for a second. If you think this video is important, hit that like button right now. This kind of content gets buried by algorithms. The powerful people involved don't want this spreading. Your likes, your shares, your comments, that's what pushes this to more people. So like, share, and comment what you think about what Jayapal just exposed. Jayapal wasn't finished. She flipped through more pages. Let me give you some statistics, Director Patel. Of the 312 agents you fired, 78 worked on Trump-related investigations. That's 57%. Another 89 agents worked on cases involving Trump allies, associates, or family members. That's 28.5%. Combined, that's 5% of the agents you fired. 7 out of 312 agents fired because they investigated Trump or his circle. She paused. Let that sink in. 7 agents, 85.5%. Those numbers were devastating. Now, Director Patel, you're going to tell me this is a coincidence. You're going to say these personnel decisions were based on performance or restructuring or operational needs. So let me ask you another question. Of these 312 agents you fired, how many were accused of misconduct? Patel hesitated. I don't have those specific numbers. I do, Jayapal said. The answer is 0. 0 agents accused of misconduct. 0 agents accused of violating FBI policy. 0 agents accused of any wrongdoing whatsoever. They were just fired. No explanation, no warning, just gone. She leaned forward. Let me ask you a third question, Director Patel. Of these 312 agents, how many received poor performance evaluations in the last 3 years? Patel didn't answer. He just sat there. I'll tell you, Jayapal said. I'll tell you. 11, that's 5%, which means 5% of the agents you fired had good or excellent performance reviews. They were good agents, doing good work, following the law, and you fired them anyway. The hearing room was absolutely silent now. Every person in that room understood what Jayapal had just done. She hadn't just exposed a few questionable firings. She'd exposed a systematic purge of any FBI agent who'd investigated Trump, with numbers, with names, with documentation that Patel clearly hadn't reviewed himself. Director Patel, Jayapal continued, her voice rising now with controlled anger, do you understand what you've done? You've gutted the FBI, you've destroyed careers, you've terminated 312 agents, most of whom spent decades serving this country, protecting Americans, investigating real crimes. And you fired them for one reason. They did their jobs. They followed the evidence. They investigated powerful people when the evidence led there, and you punished them for it. Patel tried to speak. Congresswoman, the FBI must be independent. Jayapal cut him off. The FBI must follow the law without political interference. The FBI must investigate crimes regardless of who commits them. That's what the FBI must be. And you, Director Patel, have turned it into the opposite. You've turned it into a political protection agency. An agency that punishes agents for investigating the wrong people. She held up the papers again. These 312 agents, they have families, they have mortgages, they have children in college. They dedicated their lives to law enforcement. And in 8 days, you destroyed their career. Not because they did anything wrong, but because they did something right. They investigated crimes, even when those crimes involved powerful people. Patel's face was now completely white. His hands were shaking slightly. He looked at his lawyers. They had nothing, no notes to pass. No whispered advice, because there was no defense for what Jayapal had just exposed. Let me read you something, Jayapal said. She picked up another document. This is from the FBI Agents Association, a statement released 1 hour ago. I'm going to read it in full. She began. The systematic termination of 312 FBI agents in 8 days represents an unprecedented assault on law enforcement independence. These agents were not fired for misconduct. They were not fired for poor performance. They were fired for doing their jobs professionally and following the evidence wherever it led. This is not reform. This is retaliation. This is political persecution, and it must stop immediately. She looked up at Patel, the FBI Agents Association, your own agents organization. They're calling what you're doing political persecution. What do you say to that, Director Patel? Patel couldn't answer. He just sat there, sweating, pale, defeated. I'll tell you what I say, Jayapal said. I say they're right. I say you've turned the FBI into a political weapon. I say you're destroying one of America's most important institutions, and I say that history will judge you harshly for what you've done. She gathered her papers. I'm done with this witness, Mr. Chairman. But I move that this committee subpoena the complete personnel files of all 312 terminated agents. I move that we investigate whether Director Patel violated federal law by retaliating against agents for conducting lawful investigations. And I move that we refer this matter to the Department of Justice Inspector General for criminal investigation. The room erupted, Republicans objecting, Democrats supporting, reporters running out to file stories, cameras zooming in on Patel's devastated face. Because Jayapal hadn't just asked tough questions, she'd built a complete case, with numbers, with names, with documentation. She'd shown that Patel fired 312 agents in 8 days, that 5% of them worked on Trump-related cases, that none were accused of misconduct, that 95% had good performance reviews. She'd shown a pattern so clear, so undeniable, that even Patel's defenders couldn't explain it away. 3 minutes, that's all it took. From the first question to the final motion, 3 minutes for Pramila Jayapal to expose the biggest political purge in FBI history. 3 minutes to show America exactly what's happening to their law enforcement agencies. 3 minutes to leave Kash Patel sitting there, speechless, exposed, with no defense and nowhere to hide. The fallout has been immediate. Within hours, 7 more FBI agents came forward as whistleblowers. They provided Congress with internal emails showing the purge was planned before Patel even took office. Lists of problematic agents compiled based on which investigations they'd worked. Termination orders prepared in advance. All the evidence of premeditated political retaliation. Major news networks are running Jayapal's questioning on loop. 312 agents fired in 8 days. 85% were Trump cases. FBI purge exposed. It's everywhere. Even some Republican senators are now calling for investigations because the numbers don't lie. 312 agents, 8 days, 85% investigated Trump, 0 misconduct. Those facts are undeniable. Patel's career is hanging by a thread. Calls for his resignation are coming from both parties. The FBI Agents Association wants him gone. Current agents are openly questioning his leadership. And Jayapal's motion for a criminal investigation is gaining support. One simple question, that's all it took. Have you personally reviewed the complete list of FBI agents you've terminated? Patel couldn't say yes because he hadn't. And that admission opened the door for Jayapal to walk through with 47 pages of devastating evidence. Evidence that exposed not just bad judgment, but systematic political retaliation on a scale never seen before in the FBI's history. If you want to follow this story as it develops, subscribe now and turn on notifications. Every new revelation, every whistleblower, every consequence of what Jayapal exposed will be covered here. Share this video with everyone. This information needs to reach every American. And check out the videos on your screen. Both are essential to understanding the full scope of what's happening to our law enforcement agencies. 3 minutes. 312 agents, 1 devastating question. That's all it took for Pramila Jayapal to expose Kash Patel and show America the truth. And Patel sat there, unable to speak, unable to defend, unable to do anything but watch his career crumble on live television. The truth came out, and this time, the numbers make it impossible to deny.